I think we're live. I think we're live, Craig.
Oh, we live? Oh, shit. Okay. Hi.
How are you, dude?
I'm good. I feel like that I should point out...
I think we're live. Oh, I think we're live, Craig.
Oh, we live? Oh, shit. Get myself talking. What's going on, Lloyd? This is so...
There we go. I think that's fixed now. How are you, man?
I'm good, although I think that knowing how this is probably going to go, the first thing I should say is the opinions of Craig Petty do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Lloyd Barnes, the Society of Secrets, or Murphy's Magic, and any opinions that I state on this video on Lloyd's YouTube channel are mine and mine alone.
Yes, I think it's important to say that. Firstly, can everybody hear us loud and clear in the comments? Just give us just let us know. I'm sure actually if they couldn't hear us, that's when they'll let us know.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And yeah, as Craig said, I'm an employee of Murphy's. I'm here to just sort of, you're my friend, and I just want to know how you're doing, know what's been going on. I've kind of been involved a bit behind the scenes in terms of I was the first person that you called.
Actually, I sent you a text message at 7 o'clock in the morning going, Lloyd, need to speak to you urgently.
Wow.
And you rang me, like I woke you up and you were like, huh? What's up?
Yeah. So, wow, Jake Keane straight off the back there with a super chat straight away. Wow. Thanks, dude. Everyone drop some fire emojis for Jake. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much, man. All right, so let's not beat around the bush. First of all, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a rough 4 or 5 days, to be perfectly honest. I've been getting very little sleep, and that's because a lot of the.
Sorry.
Yeah?
Jay Sankey, one of my heroes, has just commented, "I'd so admire how down to earth you both are."
Are we talking about the real Jay
Yeah,
Sankey?
it's got an official tick mark next to it.
Wow.
Wow, dude, you are a god.
I have so much money on Sankey Magic products, like so much money, much money.
I probably wouldn't be in Magic if it wasn't for Sankey. Oh my, okay, wow. All right, what a way to start the stream.
Yeah.
And Alexander Bow straight in there with a super chat as well. Drop some fire there. I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you. How are you, man?
Like I said, I'm good. I haven't had much sleep because a lot of the people that I've needed to talk to about this whole situation are based in California. Mm. So they get up they start their working day around about 4 or 5 o'clock. So I've been doing what I need to do in the day, and then regularly staying up till like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning on various different Skype calls or Zoom calls, or because there's been a lot more going on behind the scenes than people would think. Which is, and obviously we'll talk about what this is all about. But what's so frustrating is I was looking at the Magic Cafe, which is always a mistake. But I was looking at the Magic Cafe just before the stream started, and you see people in there going, "Oh, this is just a big marketing ploy of Craig's." What? I don't, without being funny, I don't need to create this much drama in my life to sell a magic trick. Without being funny, ask around. My name pretty much sells most magic tricks anyway, and that's probably come across very egotistical, but...
Do you know what's funny is that, like, if anyone thought that, then you tried... If that was the thing, then they're thinking that you tried it again, like as if you did it for the first time for Red, and that didn't work the first time. It was it's not gonna happen again.
Yeah, here's the truth. I planned the whole thing, right? I cooked it up with Michael Weber just to sell an extra 20 or 30 copies of EDCs. I mean, come on, wake up and smell the coffee. If anybody saw my first video and saw how upset I was about the whole thing, I spent hours deciding whether to post that video or not. That is not the video. You know, here's the thing, right? Okay, so on Magic TV, and a lot of people don't realize this. You do, Lloyd, because you're my best mate, but a lot of people don't realize this. The character that you see on Magic TV is a character. It's especially when the rants are taking place and all stuff like that. It's a character. It's me with the volume turned up to 200. It's me when I've got no inhibitions. Ask anyone around what I'm like when you actually meet me at a convention or something. I'm not like that at all.
No, you're twice as bad.
Yeah. But the video that I made, or any videos that I've made about this subject, that's me. That wasn't a character, which is why a lot of people said, "Oh, Craig's come across as so level-headed. Craig's not effing and blinding and shouting." No, because every time I've done that, it's been a character. But this wasn't a rant. This wasn't me doing a rant about something inconsequential. This was me literally fighting for my reputation. And I needed to be very level-headed and put across exactly how I felt, which is why there was no ranting, there was no swearing, there was no effing and blinding. It was literally straight to camera telling people exactly what it was all about.
Well,
so no, it was not a marketing strategy. If it is, people are calling me a marketing genius, and I am. I've got a degree in marketing. I've got a BA and an MA in marketing. I built 3 companies through marketing successfully. We do 25,000 events a year, and that comes down to marketing. I know how to market inside out, back to front, upside down, left way, sideways. This was not designed. Now, it wasn't designed to market anything at all. During the course of it, I don't think it's done any harm to the new product, to ED Seat. But that was a byproduct of what I was trying to do, not a...
The thing is, if you just look at it from the surface, is that if there was... This isn't the trick you'd put your reputation on the line for in terms of... It's a $20 trick.
It's a $20
trick. That also it isn't really like... It's a great trick, but it's when the first time we ever interacted, this was the first trick you told me and you brought to Murphy's. It's not like the type of trick you'd want to kill your career over. It's not the one you
well, put it this way. It was the first trick I took to Murphy's, and me and Murphy's made the decision that it wasn't going to be the first trick that I put out with Murphy's, because we wanted the first trick to be a what? Which is why the Quantum Deck was the first thing to come out. Because that was a this is a great trick. I mean, I've got multiple sets. Every wallet I have a set of ED Seats in it. It's a trick I can be proud of. It's a trick that gets great reactions. It's a project I can be proud of. It's not a trick to throw yourself down on the sword.
Yeah. So what I want to do in this live stream is sort of cover the timeline of events, because everyone wants to know. Some people haven't seen it, and I've spent like a year building up this platform, so I think it's the perfect place to just lay out the events. No bias either side, just what went on, and then I want to talk about like a bigger issue, which is the policing of ideas, and at what stage do we get to where you're so protective of an idea, or someone is so protective of an idea that had never, for all intents and purposes, been published in the standard way, that you'd want to prevent better things coming from it. They say you should like leave everywhere you go better than how you found it, like whether it's hotels, relationships, anything. And I think the same is true for magic. Like if I had an idea and it was written over 500 words and shared with a select group of people, and somebody years later then went off and made a 7-hour mammoth project exploring everything and anything in between and what you could do with it to take it to the next platform, the last thing I'd be doing would be sending threats. But I don't know if I'm wrong, because there are arguments also to be said for like a published trick. Then of course I've stopped people releasing stuff when it's bang on the nose something I've put out. But I do want to talk about that later on. But I think just for anyone that's getting into this stream now, I think let's talk about the timeline of events. And I think there's one thing that is interesting, which is the reason you went with the video was because of the history you had, where it all happened in the shadows last time, and with other people that have experienced this sort of stuff. And by their pattern of behavior, things like this, and not just them, other people too, have tried to do these types of things to yourself or other creators in the shadows. And by taking it to the court of public opinion, one thing you said to me is that you wanted to lay it out there because if you want to hear if you're overthinking it, if you felt you were right or wrong, and the best way to do it is to. That's why you didn't name them. You didn't put their names in the video so that people could make their own mind up, not be swayed by who it was. And then if everyone come back and said, "No, Craig, you are in the wrong," I think you would have been able to go, "Yeah, okay then. I didn't think I was, but generally you guys think I am. I can now go off and handle it this way." So by taking it to the public, it meant that like the collective conscious of the Magic community decided which side of the argument they were on. It came out who it was later on, but by that point, people had already made their minds up, and the rest is history. So, what happened 12 years ago? Do you want to start there?
Yeah, sure. So, I for those people that are blissfully unaware of Wared, it's the reason that I left the Magic community. So, I released several tricks up until this point. I was very well known as being the co-host of the Wizard Product Review with David Penn, and I released a trick that is called Red. That was called Red, and it was a near as damn it a basically carbon copy of a trick called New Wave Prediction by Bob King. Now, what made it worse, and this was brought up by somebody on the cafe, is that I brought this trick out called Red, and people were like, "Hang on, this looks like Bob King's New Wave Prediction." And about 5 or 6 years prior to that, I'd actually posted on this message forum called Magic Bunny, and somebody had asked what my favorite tricks were. And at the time, when I was doing restaurants a lot, I think I put in third place New Wave Prediction. And so it was kind of like, well, hang on a minute, 6 years ago, that was your favorite trick, and now you've basically copied it and re-released it. And now I had a reputation of being, on the Wizard Product Review, of being very hard on people who ripped
bad
on
guy, like the
bad guy. Yeah, it
good
was
cop, bad cop.
It was good cop, bad cop. David Penn was the good cop. I was the bad cop. And even more, way more than I am right now. I know it can be a little bit tough sometimes now, like when you see me smash up an M-pad. I'm sure Peter Aiken could say that I'm quite bad right now. But back then, I was like 20 times worse. Like, it was just outrageous, some of the stuff that me and Penn got up to. So, and I had annoyed quite a few people in the community that were creators through talking negatively about various different products. So the fact that I had then done the same, it was open season. Now, the first people that brought it to anyone's attention was Tim Trono and Michael Weber. They sent me an email saying, and I've never talked about this before, ever. I've talked about Red in detail, but I've never said that the first email came from Michael Weber and Tim Trono. They sent a very threatening letter to me, to World Magic Shop, to Murphy's. And you know, we immediately did the right thing in that we pulled it. I mean, it was 12 years ago, and World Magic Shop handled a lot of it, but we pulled it off the shelves. I never got paid a penny I never got paid for anything back then. I never made a penny from any products bought out through World Magic Shop, but that's another story for another time.
That's because no one bought them, mate.
Huh?
That's because no one bought it.
So I never, we never took a fee on that. I believe that Bob King was, we were definitely in touch with Bob King, and we, or his parties or his representatives or something, and it was all sorted. And off the back of that, I eventually had to leave the Magic community. That catalyst, that email, because Michael Weber and Tim Trono started it, and I'd be interested to go back actually to the thread on the cafe, because if it's still there, and see how many times New Guy posted. I reckon he'd probably post quite a lot in that thread. It'd be interesting to go back and see that.
Well, but New Guy posted something interesting on the cafe, saying in the first post to you, or in response to EDC, which was one of the lines in there was that they split that he said, so New Guy said that Michael Weber bought the rights to Bob King's trick to go after you.
Yeah, which is basically, as we now know that New Guy is Michael Weber, that's New Guy. But New Guy saying that Michael Weber bought the rights to go after me, that means that Michael Weber was telling the world that he bought the rights to go after me, which up until that point, I'd had a completely crystal clear record. I hadn't made a single mistake. I don't think he needed to buy the rights to a trick to go after me. I think that's quite caustic right there. And I think that it could have been handled in a better way, especially as,
There it is.
And yeah, there you go.
So this is the post from Webber's account saying, Webber was an old friend of King and paid Bob for the rights so he could go after Craig and set the record straight.
I mean, as I say, I had a crystal clear record up until then, and that screwed everything. Up. It was a horrible.
The thing is, as a creator, I get it. I get it. I don't know where your head was at back then. I didn't know you back then, but I literally did the same thing a year ago to Matthew Wright. Matthew Wright's a good friend of mine. I've been to Spain to stay with him. He interviewed me for his YouTube channel. I watch his YouTube channel. He had a section on there called The Wife Test. I loved it, watched it. About 3 months later, I was looking for content to film. I was like, oh, Kaylee, to my wife, let me film some stuff. I put it up. I called the video The Wife Test. Didn't even cross my mind. And then Matthew messaged me. He's like, have you done this on purpose or am I just being a knob sort of thing? And I was mortified. And I was like, Matthew, I'm a complete. I didn't steal it, but I had absolutely seen it. I know I'd seen it, but it wasn't in my, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, dude, I didn't intentionally steal it, but I'm a total thief and held my hand up. It happens.
The thing. I've seen a lot of magic. I read constantly, and somebody at the session came up to me and showed me a trick. And I was like, oh, that's really good. Where did you learn it? And he was like, from one of your DVDs. I didn't even remember publishing it. I didn't even remember. Like, when you get to a point where and people go, oh, I've seen Craig on his YouTube channel. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge about magic. Well, not really. My memory is good, but how many videos do you see me doing on that YouTube channel with a piece of paper in front of me with notes? I'm 46 years old. I've got to the point where I'm forgetting quite a lot of stuff now. I have to make notes. Like I was going and doing a Hidden Gems the other day, one of my favorite tricks of all time, reset by Paul Harris. And I couldn't bloody remember the trick. I had to go back and relearn it so I could show it to people on the YouTube channel.
Well, Pete, by the way, Sankey's commented, this is the timeline of my life. He said, I have so much respect for you both. Two very creative, no BS, straight up guys. Exactly the sincere and hardworking people we need more of in the world of magic. Rock on, hugs all around. Sankey more so you than me, but called us creative. I'm very creative. I am putting that on my epitaph, man. Like, the most creative magician of all time said, could that? What?
It's crazy.
I have imposter syndrome so hard right now. But yeah, Pete Turner called me the other day and he said something about, he said, this idea of yours, and this is how I would use it. And I was like, that's not my idea. He's like, yeah, definitely your idea. I was like, not my idea. I'm still not convinced it's my idea. I said, I really, really, really don't think that was my idea. He's like, well, either way, this is how I would use it. It happened. So if you're guilty of forgetting your own ideas, and I certainly am, I bet Sankey is. He wrote the encyclopedia on all tricks, basically. You know what I mean?
I've got his books.
No doubt.
I've got his 3 massive books. Mm-hmm. And literally within a day of them going on sale, they probably were out of date because he's created another 30 tricks since then. Jay has I'm sure he will have forgotten more tricks than he even knows.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going off target now. So
it just happened. But the bottom line is, I did rip it off. And we tried to do the right thing. We tried to pull it. But the backlash of that whole situation was I felt the need to leave the magic community. I was getting death threats. My family were being threatened. I was being threatened. There were videos popping up on YouTube every 5 minutes parodying me. There were blogs.
Sorry, I got to bring that up. You can't say certain words. Parodying is not a word. And then you were trying to say anonymous the other day, and it kept coming out saying anonymous.
Yeah. Can't do it. I'm thick as shit, mate.
I'm so glad you're better at magic than speaking.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I'm a motivational speaker. But yeah, I felt the need. I'll be honest with you. There were days where I was just lying in bed and I was just like, I don't want to wake up. I just don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get up. I don't want to wake up. I just want to be asleep forever because it was horrible. Because look, you love me or you hate me, and that's fine. Some people might love me, some people might hate me. If I hear one more time somebody saying Craig's like Marmite, I might just end up like losing it. I get that people don't like me. I'm a controversial character. There's a lot of things that people don't like about me. That's cool. But one thing that you have to know 100% without a shadow of a doubt is that I love magic. If I didn't love magic, I wouldn't be doing 27 videos a week on YouTube. It requires a certain level of dedication and love of the art in order. Try and do it. Go and try and do it. You know, I see people going, at the beginning of January, I saw people saying, I'm going to do a 365 challenge. I'm going to post a video every single day on YouTube, one video a day every single day. And then by the end of January, they've given up. I've been posting 4 videos a day, every single day on YouTube for 2.5 years. The dedication it needs to do that is just ridiculous.
I will say, and I know this might be like thing, you don't really make anything off it, like in terms of the monetary back end.
Nope.
And without coming across as like an arsehole, like I was making, I make barely anything on my YouTube, but like 6 months into me doing my channel, and you've been doing yours for 2 years, I was already making more than you. So
yeah.
If anybody thinks that you ever do your YouTube for monetary gain, I mean, you'd probably just share a screenshot. Like, you make more in the first quarter of an hour of a gig than you do making 27 videos a week, which... Are you still doing 27 a week?
Yeah,
What's
I mean,
that? 100...
if we don't do the shorts every single day, it's probably more like about 22, 21, but it's still a lot.
A week. It's not worth your time if you were doing it to earn.
No, it's really not. But the reason I do it is because I love the art, and I feel like, you know, the amount of emails and messages I get going, oh my God, I'm into magic because of you, or I've come back to magic because of you, or I feel like I can perform. Because I don't see many channels out there that put videos out like how to perform, Jay, ironically, does. He has a great YouTube channel as well for that sort of thing. But there's very few YouTube channels that do that. So it hurts. The point is, it really hurt when I left the community. It really hurt because I love magic, but I felt that the only option I had was to walk away. In hindsight, it was the best thing I ever did because I was getting distracted with magic. And what I mean by that is I was getting distracted. I would spend 3 days a week filming the Wizard product review and not get anything for it, traveling back and forth to rugby in order to film the Wizard product review and not get anything for it. So it was the best thing I ever did. I was getting distracted and allowed me to focus on my family and my business, and allowed me to build a business over the previous 10 years. So it was the best thing that happened, but would I have left if it hadn't have been for the red situation? Probably not, but that only happens because of hindsight. For a long time, I was in a very kind of shitty place.
I just want to jump in really quick. Jason Yoakum said, hey, now, don't be hating the 365. They're personal challenges. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think you were hating on it. I think you were just saying about the people that start them and then don't finish them, as opposed to your consistent output. I love the 365s. I
helped a friend of mine, Tiffany, do a 365 challenge a few years ago. I think it's a great way to get creative.
Yeah.
Great way to push material out there.
You were just saying how many people just end up not doing them after 30 days. That's compared to how much.
It's a little bit like going to the gym. You know, I said in January I was going to go to the gym every single day and I'm going to get fit. And what's happened is slowly it's like become every third day. And it's like, you know, if you're going to do something, you got to do it.
And you were just saying how like your output then. Correct. Anyway, so 12 years go by, 10 years go by really, and you come back into the industry. You start your YouTube channel, and then you slowly and I'd say quite timidly have some good ideas, and you dip your toe back into the magic industry, the product world. Again,
I'll tell you how it came to be. It came to be, if you're really interested and you want to know the story, 3 things happened at the same time, very, very briefly. So I came back to the industry. it was all because of the pandemic. So I dipped my toe back into Magic, Blackpool 2020, just before the pandemic. Russ Brown asked me to do the Bear Pit at Blackpool. And I said, yeah, go on then. Why not? I hadn't been to Blackpool the entire time I'd been out in the industry. And I was like, yeah, it would probably be nice to go. So I went to Blackpool, didn't take my family, just went on my own and had a great time. It was good. I really enjoyed it. Nobody knew who I was. 10 years had gone by. And I back in the day when I was on the Wizard Priority, I'd walk around, everybody knew who I was. Photos every 5 seconds. When I went back, nobody knew who I was. It was quite nice. And I was just walking around and hanging out, and it was good. And then the pandemic hit. And Ryland had been getting into Magic at that point, really into Magic. He's always been into it, but he was like super into it. And he was getting very frustrated that he couldn't go out and perform anywhere. He couldn't go out and do anything. He was stuck in the house. And he loves performing. And I said, well, you know what? Your dad used to do a review show about 10 years ago. Why don't we do a review show? And if you go back and look at episode 1 of the review show, it's me and a 7-year-old Ryland just sitting there in my office, just with like loads of crap around us, and we reviewed one trick, and we were like, we might do this again, we might not. And we had a blast doing it, and there were a few comments. I think we had like 30 views, and we had a few comments going, do it again, do it again. So we ended up doing it every single week, and it became more popular. And I remember in the early days, people were like, you're doing a review show with a kid, are you mad? And now everybody's like, I watched the review show because of Ryland. And it's been really funny to see that something that people thought was a stupid idea has actually turned into kind of like a big part of what Magic TV is. But then at around about the same time as I started doing more videos and more videos and more videos, and I had other stuff to share, and it ended up blowing up from there. In terms of releasing product, 3 things happened at the same time. The first thing is Sean Dunn from Penguin Magic reached out to me and asked me if I'd be in, saw that I was doing stuff online and said, hey, would you like to do some stuff with Penguin? And I was like, yeah, because I hadn't stopped creating over 10 years. I'd still been creating. So I had just files of stuff. Anybody who creates, you can't help it. So you just get an idea and you work on it. You know, I still love Magic. When I wasn't in the industry, I still loved Magic. So I was still creating stuff, but just wouldn't do anything with it. And I said to Sean, yeah, I've got some really great ideas. And then at the same time, I spoke to Peter Nardi, and Peter Nardi was like, do you want to work with Alakazam? And I was like, yeah, I've got some really great ideas, dipping into my files and going, hey, how about this? How about this? And at the same time, I interviewed you. And we'd never spoken really before that. And I reached out to you because I'd started doing interviews on my channel. And I reached out to you to say, would you be interested in doing an interview? And you said, yeah. We'd never spoken before. And I don't think we've ever spoken about this actually on YouTube, but you and me just instantly hit it off. And I arranged to do an interview with you at, I think it was 10 o'clock on the day. And normally the interviews take 2 or 3 hours. We started talking about Magic, and we started talking about a whole bunch of stuff. It got to 5 o'clock and we hadn't actually started the interview. We spent 7 hours talking over Zoom. And I was like, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do the interview now. We'll do it tomorrow. And we scheduled another Zoom call for the next day. And we said, before we do anything, let's get the interview done. So we got the interview done. Amazing interview. Found out even more about you. And then we carried on chatting afterwards. And I remember you saying, how come you haven't released anything through Murphy's? And I was like, well, just not been releasing anything through anybody. And you were like, would you? I was like, yeah. You're like, well, we'd love to have you. I was like, okay, let's talk. And I think the next day I showed you ED Seat and a couple of other things that still haven't come out. And I showed you the Quantum deck. And the Quantum deck, and all of them you were loving. And then the Quantum deck, I fooled you with it like 3 or 4 times in a row. And you arranged a Skype call with everybody in the creative team at Murphy's, and you were like, you've got to show that to everybody on the call. Yeah. So I went on the call and I did the Quantum deck for Titanus and George and Javier and all those guys, and that was the one that we went with first because we wanted to. That was the one that everyone was.
Craig, you're boring me to death, though. I want to get to the juice.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's how. You asked the question. That's how I started working and releasing magic tricks again. It just happened.
Yes. So from there. Then you go through this whole sort of redemption arc, where you made your videos and you addressed what happened with Red all those years ago. You came out and you said, for whether you knowingly did it at the time or not, either way, feel free to say, because I'm going to say it, that I'm a thief and I stole it and or ripped it off, you know. And I left and I've paid my dues. I'm back, and because I'm back, I'm going to do things from now on out in the open, publicly, shine a light on it for good, for bad, for worse, for better.
Yeah.
So you start doing that. And then, so you're releasing things, you're doing projects with everyone, working with everyone. People are getting to see the person behind the YouTube screen, which is, as much as it pains me to say it, quite a nice, humble person and very hardworking. But that's the last. I'm actually going to cut this from the live when it comes out. But for, you know, and then then I get a phone call from you on Friday morning, and it's you, pretty worked up. It's 7 a.m. Kaylee was livid because it was so early, and you were.
I think it was
I don't know. I want to say you were close to tears. It definitely sounded like that, and you were just kept repeating, "It's happening again. It's happening again. They're trying to run me out of the industry." That was that. If this was a Netflix documentary, that would be the opening to the film thing for me, because that's the phone call I got, and I was like, "What?" I was still asleep. What is going on, man? What's happening?
Well,
So
I woke up to an email from Tim Trono, and for people that don't know, Tim's a big player in the industry. Like, worked for Murphy's for a long time. I believe he went for Illusionist for a long time. In charge of like a whole bunch of stuff. He's now currently working at Penguin, but he's always had a sort of a relationship with Michael Weber. And I mean, you know this. I don't know how many people know this that are watching this, but Tim Trono and Michael Weber are not the sort of people that you say no to. When, you know, it's kind of known within the industry that if they send you an email, I think Michael Weber is probably the only person that I can think of that if you get an email from Michael Weber and he tells you to pull a product, even if you think you're in your right, you pull the product because you just know that it's going to be ending badly for you.
I want to say, like, because I don't have that experience with them that you did. I've only from face-to-face interactions with them have had like wonderful interactions, like great interactions with them. And on the flip side of that, I've and again it's like, not again, but on the flip side of that, I know exactly what you mean. It's like if I had received an email from Weber because of things people have said over the years, saying pull up, regardless if I was in the right or the wrong, he's just someone you don't mess with. So I would, you know, if it was me in that situation, I would have just deleted my product, without even looking at whether I was in the right or wrong. And that's just, you know, that, like you're saying, it's just something rounding. And that you know, that comes with building up, you know, such a reputation for yourself, not for yourself, for the, you know, those sorts. So yeah, sorry. So you get the email.
Yeah, so I got the email from Tim. It came from Tim's email account, but it was signed off Tim and Michael. And I read the email out in my video, but basically it was, hey, it quoted Christian Grayslave gave me a quote, and it quoted Christian's quote, which was a brilliant application of something like that. And then it went in to say, well, it's actually not a brilliant application. It's been done before. And then proceeded to talk to me about Real Secrets and said it's been I'd never heard of Real Secrets before. It'd been published in Real Secrets. And as well as that, the receipts were given away in the August 2012 issue of Genie. And because of that, we would respectfully ask you to, well, there was no respectfully about it. They didn't use that word. It was like, hey, I can't remember exactly. I can go and get it if you want to, but it was something along the lines of, you need to pull the product. That's what it was. It was basically, you need to pull this product. If it was, hey, let me call you, hey, we might have an issue here, let's have a chat. If it was a phone call. And here's the thing, this is what I didn't understand, right? So it was Tim sending this. And one of the reasons I got Penguin involved in this at the very beginning, and the reason that I was a bit confused, is I knew Tim worked for Penguin. And from my point of view, I had a great working relationship with Penguin. I've hosted many of their projects for them, released many tricks through them. I'm the current Penguin creator of the year. And when they had trouble with that whole Armando Nepo diamond cutter thing, I actually set up a live debate between all of the parties, and I was actually arguing on behalf of Penguin. So I'm like, this can't be coming from Penguin. So my mind was racing about a million different things. And my first phone call was to you. And I was like, I knew that Murphy's wouldn't be open, but I knew that you would be. And I'm like, look, we need to work out what's going on. And by the time I rang you, I'd got into the August 2012 issue of Genie because I'm a subscriber. I can get their digital back catalogue. I couldn't find anything out about Real Secrets. There's no information about it anywhere other than the thread on the cafe that doesn't really tell you anything. But just it talked about this organisation, this membership club.
Well, basically, what you found in Genie, sorry to interject, it's just to sort of get to where we are, is that it wasn't the same trick. It was a trick using receipts, but it used the matrix principle to predict if the total of 4 items from 4 different receipts. Very, very different method, very different effect, but they did share receipts. And then, but no mention of the binary principle, of the trick that you were being accused of stealing. Because I think it's that sort of terminology which is the important part here. But then, so you went and tracked down then, or Real Secrets, because the thing with the Real Secrets well, the whole purpose of Real Secrets is you'd apply to become a member, you'd either get accepted or not. A lot of people were turned away. Then you would be sent stuff in the mail, tricks in the mail, but you were sworn to secrecy, so you weren't allowed to talk about it ever. So it was a select group of people that
not even just you couldn't talk about it. You can talk about anything on message forums. Yeah. You couldn't perform it to other magicians. So although you had live, you couldn't go to a convention and start performing the stuff that you learned from the Real Secrets to other magicians. You couldn't do anything like that. You couldn't put videos up on YouTube or Facebook or any type of, probably MySpace back in 2012. I don't know. You couldn't do any of that. You literally were a member of this club and you could perform it to whoever, punters.
Which I think is a really, it is the crux of the issue, which is if this was published just published properly, even out there, even in Genie magazine, if this was published in Genie magazine, then there is a case to say, well, yep, that exists. We're not taking into question yet. Just this is like a 7-hour project filled with
well, that's it. I mean, even if it had been published, there's an argument to say it's fine, but we can get to that down the line.
Yeah, so even if it had been published, then there's more of a case to go on. But because the product wasn't released, all they were seeing was the ad copy, But it turns out there is a 500 wordish, which if you look at it on a piece of paper, it's barely 1 page of text. I don't even think it's 1 full page of text. That just tells you what the effect is, how it works.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's it. But it's important to stress that those who were lucky enough to ever get hold of this you had to swear to secrecy. So you couldn't have done your research on it, which will come back later on. Yeah. Because it was not there to be found unless you were just lucky enough to know someone.
So 2 things happened at the same time. I contacted Sean Dunn. I asked him to look into it from Penguin side of things. He knew nothing about this. And I was like, well, help. And I just want to be clear. I love Penguin to bits. I mean, I think I've made this very, very abundantly clear. I think Penguin are amazing. I think Penguin are one of the best magic companies out there. They are, and I've had such a great experience. And I want to carry on working with Penguin. I love them to bits. But I contacted Sean and I said, look, can you help with this? Because Tim works with you guys. Maybe you can kind of work out what's going on, because he's got it in for me right now. He's not even asking for a phone conversation. He doesn't even want to see the tutorial. That's the other thing. He wasn't asking to see the tutorial. They were basing this off a trailer that they saw. And based off a trailer, they were telling me to pull it and assuming it was the same thing. I was like, can you contact Tim? Can you see if you can do something? And he's like, yeah, leave it with me. And I said, I need to reply to Tim. What do you want me to do? And he said, just leave it. Leave it until I get back to you. At the same time, I just gave a heads up to Murphy's. And I was like, look, this is what the situation is. But I think we've got it in hand. Then the next day, I get a phone call from Murphy's, because now Tim has contacted Murphy's. And it was roughly 24 hours after he contacted me. And I know he's been talking to everybody that will listen and saying, well, Craig didn't speak to me about this. You know, Craig should have replied to me. Craig should have been in touch with me. Sean Dunn told me not to communicate with him. And I'm hyper aware that when he was told that, when Tim Troner was told that, Tim turned around and said, well, Sean's not Craig's boss. No, but he's somebody I trust. So, I left it, and he then contacted Murphy's. And at the second that he contacted Murphy's, within about an hour, Murphy's had replied. But now, to be clear, every reply that went from Murphy's was coming from me. I just wanted to do this through Murphy's because it's their product. They put the investments in. It's their reputation on the line as well as mine, and I believe it's important to involve them as well. So everything was coming from Murphy's, and we replied to them almost straight away. And you can see that from the first email back, which came back from Michael Weber, which said, thanks for the speedy reply. So for Tim to turn around and say, oh, Craig was ignoring me. No, he wasn't. I was getting in touch with you almost immediately, but I chose to do it through Murphy's. But it was interesting that the next email came through from Michael Weber directly, and every email came through from Michael Weber after that. And I don't know if that's because Tim had pressure put on him from Penguin, because I'd reached out to Penguin. I don't know. I know Penguin were upset about the whole situation, because one thing that Penguin are really into is looking after their artists. They're very, very keen on looking after their artists, and they don't want to ever see their artists put into a situation where they're not, looked after. So I don't know if that's the case, but from that point on, every email came through from Michael Weber, and came through from Michael's email address. Whilst before they were coming through from Tim's email address, and it was signed off from Tim and Michael. Now it was signed off just from Michael.
So this is happening at the same time. A Magic Cafe thread goes up and shares.
No.
Okay.
The Magic Cafe thread doesn't go up until I post the video. Somebody posted the video on the cafe. There was a back and forth between me and Mike. There was a
That's
little
right.
bit
Yeah,
of
there was a back and
time.
forth going on, trying to see what the differences were.
Yeah, and
what made them so.
Yeah, there were about 5 emails back and forth where Michael was. It was almost like a game of tennis. Michael was coming back. We were going back to Michael. I was going. Murphy's were, but I was pretty much telling them what to write. Back and forth between Murphy's and Michael. And it got to a point where Murphy's were kind of like, and I need to say, Murphy's was supporting me throughout all this 100%. They were completely aware of this situation. They knew what was going on, and they were like, look, as far as we're concerned, we're not pulling it.
It's I mean this with the best respect. We weren't supporting you. We were supporting what was right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've actually had this in my personal life. It's a personal thing, but someone was accused of doing something wrong, and even though I love them, I stuck by it. I said, well, no, you actually did do that, and it's not right, so you do have to pay the consequence. I still love you, but you still have to suffer the consequence if that was the case. And this is the situation here. I've been at the receiving end of all of this stuff. When I had a drama years ago, I won't mention the company name, but I've been on the receiving end. I know what it feels like, and I made sure then that everything was done by the book, and I was in the right. And it's the same with this. If you were in the wrong, I probably would have said to you, well, no. I would have said to you, Craig, you're in the wrong on this, and as much as I love you as a friend, this is going to ruin everything for you. So it had to be, you had to stand up for what was right, but also this has to set a precedent, because if you were to back down on this issue and you weren't getting supported on it, then it meant this type of thing could continue to happen, because it has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And like people say, you want to leave Magic in a better state than you found it. Well, that is not the way to do it, to stifle creativity.
No.
Over idea policing, which we'll come back to later.
Because ultimately, we found out through these conversations with these back and forth emails with Michael, his point was that the receipts that were given away in Genie did have the age card principle built into them, but they didn't say that in Genie. You had to write in to Real Secrets, and they would send you a sheet of paper.
That might tell you that it works in there. It's basically the trust me bro meme.
Yeah. So
Of the magic world, trust me.
and you can see that, or you could see that. We'll get to that in a bit.
But on the other hand, where the sorry, I was saying where the basic effect was written up, in Real Secrets issue 2, the Jerks, who's friends with Weber, comments that the instructions were intentionally left minimal. So that alone says that, well, with a 7-hour project with how to use it as chair tests and all these different ways basically the receipts are almost non-consequential by the time you see half the Pete's things alone. By that admission alone that it was minimal, you don't even need to look at the 7 hours of explanations to know that including 7 hours of explanations makes it a very, very different thing.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%. And when I was checking about the receipts, I mean, one thing I do want to point out is on the Conjuring archive, when I did a search for receipts, the only thing that you could find that had Michael Weber's name linked to it, it actually didn't have Michael Weber's name linked to it. It said real, no, it did. It had Michael Weber's name linked to it. It was...
But this comes later. Don't get this confused.
No, it was the Matrix receipts. It was at the time when I was searching for it, all I could find on the Conjuring archive was Matrix receipts. So anyway... It went back and forth with me and Weber, and then the final point was Michael Weber turning around and saying the last email that was sent was Michael Weber, and he put a very big email across, and the final paragraph was something along the lines of, you need to do, Craig is not in a good situation, and... he needs to pull the product immediately. It would be a shame for him to have another red situation on his hands after all the hard work he's put in over the last couple of years, or words to that effect. Which, for me, I called it in my video a thinly veiled threat. Now looking back, it's not thinly veiled. It's a full-on threat.
It's very public knowledge that red situation caused you to have you and your family to receive death threats, which are documented, and for you to have a mental breakdown enough to leave the industry. So if you take the word red as it's implied, which is to have death threats and a mental breakdown, what's being said is, you don't want this to cause you to get more death threats and a mental breakdown in a very...
And remember that this is coming from Michael Weber, who is one of the most powerful and high-profile magicians in the planet. And everybody has a Michael Weber story. And I'd asked around. And here's the thing. When I had that email... Murphy's turned around to me and said, well, what do you want to do? Because, basically, we're now in a situation where after a back and forth, and it's all behind the scenes, nobody knows about this, we're being put into a situation where it's a case of pull it, else he's going to make things very, very difficult for you. We don't think you should pull it. It's your choice. And I said, we're not pulling it, but I need to put a video out to control the narrative because I need to let people know exactly what's happening from my point of view. And people, a couple of people, not many, but a couple of people said, oh, Craig put the video out to sensationalize things. Or Craig put the video out to, as a marketing thing to try and get more people to buy his trick. I'll tell you exactly why I put that video out. I put the video out for 2 reasons. The first reason is I felt like my back was against the wall, and I did not take the decision lightly. I rang so many people and asked them what I should do. You, I asked. Pete Turner, I asked. Peter Nardi, I asked. And Peter Nardi turned around to me and said, don't do the video. Whatever you do, don't do the video. You're right. I remember exactly what he said. He said, you're riding high. Everybody loves you. All your tricks are a massive success. Everybody wants to work with you. You've got everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you're not going to lose money out of this, then don't pull the product. Then pull the product, take the loss, and walk away. And it was Pete Turner that turned around to me and said, I understand where Nardi's coming from, but if you do this, they're going to be able to control you anytime they want to. Whenever you bring a trick out, they can tell you to pull it and you won't have a choice. it's you immediately, and it will come out. It will come out. But EDCs at that point had been well publicised that there was a new trick coming out from Murphy's. If I'd have pulled, and also I didn't feel like I wanted to pull it because I was in the right. I was also in the right. So the first reason was I felt like my back was against the wall, but it was and the second reason was I'm all about trying to do the right thing. I came back to this industry and I wanted to be completely transparent. I failed with Red because I was silent. I didn't put a post up on the internet. I didn't put a post up anywhere. I didn't say anything about it. And it got worse and worse and worse because I wasn't communicating with people. I wanted to be able to communicate with people. I wanted to let people know what was going on. And also, I kind of thought to myself, if this is happening to me, who else could this happen to? There's new creators that come into this industry all the time. The Chris Jameses of the world, you got Roman Armstrong, and even people that have been around for a little while that have only just been creating for the last 2 or 3 years. David Jonathan, Kyle Purnell. The list goes on and on and on. If it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. And despite everybody telling me that you can't do this and you don't want to stand up to Michael Webber, and nobody has ever stood up to Michael Webber before, I stood up to him because I thought, well, the worst case scenario is I just leave the industry again. And it would hurt, but it's not like I've not been there before. But to be clear, to be absolutely crystal clear, it was an incredibly difficult decision to make. I remember ringing you, like I'd got the video and I went to hit send and I rang you and I was like, am I doing the right thing? It took me all day to hit submit on that video. I didn't. And I'll be honest, like we've never said this to anybody. I actually ended up not putting it live by accident.
Yeah, when it actually first went live, we were planning to do it, but it did. You jumped the gun a little bit by pressing public instead of unlisted and saving it, and then that was quite funny. But that happened. That went out, and I think the one thing about that, which is to your I don't know what the word is. I'm not very good at this stuff, but I think you said to me, you did say to me that it was, if the world came back and said to you, Craig, you're wrong on this, mate, leave it there, you would have. Yep. And you didn't name them because if you were in the wrong, you didn't want to bring shame on them and be in the wrong. That's terrible. Yep. The other thing it did is that it let everyone make their minds up on the decision completely unbiasedly. Some people are going to watch your channel, but a lot of times people will watch you, like you say, and don't even like you, but they'll still watch you, so they can. But as the whole, and obviously it's had so many views now, but they can make the decision unbiasedly and go from there. This to me is where it starts to go from this is where it goes from just magic drama to Netflix style. What the hell? Don't mess with the cat style crazy outcomes.
This is where it went bonkers, man, because somebody posted it on the cafe. So it got posted on the cafe, which I anticipated. I anticipated it would go up on the cafe. And very quickly on, I think one of the first 5 posts was by a guy called New Guy.
Read it out.
Okay. Get my phone. Let me just open it up here.
So whilst you're finding it, somebody asks, maybe this is a stupid question, but why does Webb have such notoriety? A good book 30 years ago? No, I'll say this, he's an incredible creator. He's got some amazing ideas. But the notoriety thing is going to come up in a bit, and this is what was the kind of crazy stuff that's gone on.
I got it. All right, okay. Did you want to answer any more questions or?
No. So just read. So a post from somebody called New Guy on the Magic Cafe appeared after the shared video of Craig, and this is what that post from New Guy said.
I think this is Craig trying to get away with the same stuff he pulled with Red and Pub King's New Wave prediction. Craig 100% stole it and put it out as his own creation. He openly and regularly admits it, even though he had a similar long list of excuses and accusations in the past. Webber, 2 Bs, was an old friend of King and paid Bob for the rights so he could go after Craig and set the record straight. Craig went into hiding for several years after. He re-emerged with his new online series, and he's continually acknowledged his past wrongful actions and lies and admitted that the claims of King and Webber were correct. I don't know anything about the back and forth emails being discussed, but as a charter member of Real Secrets and owner of the Works Mentalism Kit, alongside subscriber of Genie, I have to laugh when you think about it in hindsight, and the Journal of Science, I knew that Webber had published, printed, shared, and released at least 4 different versions of the age receipts, the first I saw in 2012. I think that Craig got caught with his hand in a cookie jar again by the same person for the same thing. My guess is that the reason he didn't say anything about transaction is because his issue isn't with the receipt mentalism, it's that Fowler's transaction is Grant's true test with the receipts, while Craig's release is identical to what Webber released more than a decade ago, age cards designed to look like receipts. My money says we'll have more tears, tirades, and excuses from Petty and Webber. And Webber will just keep creating great magic. I just hope bullshit like this doesn't make Webber stop sharing.
So that new guy account, then people take a look at it, and it's an account made 20 years ago. I think just over 21 years ago on the Magic Cafe. And for what it looks like, it's a Webber super fan. Almost every post on there is made talk about how incredible or great Webber is, talking about how brilliant his products are, or then like correcting people if they miscredit Webber or someone else instead of him. But for like 21 years, essentially,
Yeah, exactly. And I was the first person to say that it was Michael Webber. I was the first person to say, "Hey, Michael, how are you?" I made this post of I was expecting you. I wasn't expecting him at all. But I did a bit of... I had a look at the handwriting analysis, and I compared it to his emails, and it was very, very similar, the new guy stuff. So I said, you are Michael Webber.
So you took a punt on it and just said, hello.
Well, I just figured he would be. I thought I'd call him out on it, and I had no proof or anything. And he came back and said, Mr. Petty, admittedly a big fan of Mr. Webber. Notice the one bit, he's just an idiot, but not so big as to actually be him. And a sincere question for you, is it your opinion that anyone else can put out their version of another effect someone else has released? What guarantees do you have to determine that something deserves a credit versus not credit worthy? And under what circumstances should a magician not put out something he's learned has already published and sold? Thank you for coming here and answering directly. So, he came on and said, I'm not Michael Webber. And then after that, very shortly after that, there's a guy that
this is the when you like see a moment in a film like The Sixth Sense and you're like, what? Yeah, everyone knows that moment.
Yep.
When I read this comment, it was kind of like that. Whoa, what is going on here?
It's a guy called Pseudonym. Quite interesting. And apparently he's well known on the cafe. I don't know him, but apparently he's well known on the cafe.
Yeah, he's been on there for years, but also like people actually know him. Like they call the name.
He says, I'm going to drop a big bombshell here, one that will likely have dire consequences. I know Michael Webber. Would you like to know the depths of his deception? This is fact. I have the messages between he and I, and to prove it, where he asks me not to disclose his identity here at the cafe. I cannot, in all good conscience, sit here in silence in the light of recent events. Michael Webber is new guy. And then he says, in addition to my above comment, it disgusts me beyond words to see Michael Webber on this thread pretending to be a fan of his own work and using his hidden identity here under the false pretenses to attack Craig. I've done many things in my past that I'm not proud of, but if there's a road to redemption, thrusting me on this sword might be a good start. Search post by new guy, and you will find many in connection to posts made about Michael Webber. Again, this is not speculation. I have messages between he and I to prove he was once a supporter of my short-lived periodical Skeletons in the Closet. He and I have published together in the same volume, Scryer's Elite by Richard Webster. I know that I'm committing suicide with this admission about Michael, but I've never been one to back away from controversy. I'm merely trying to do what's right, and I support Craig 110% in this. And he goes on and on and on. And there's numerous posts that he's been making. I'll read one more. Just for the record, I don't know Craig Petty personally. I've never interacted with him. I am basically placing my neck on the chopping block for a complete stranger. I have a few releases of my own that are set to come out this year, and I suspect that this ordeal may affect them negatively. I hope not, but it is a very real possibility.
Yeah, so that sort of comes in, and everyone at this point is just going like, what? And people, and the thing about the internet is you can't put the internet back in.
Nope.
So Magic Cafe detectives go cray and just rifle through new guys' post history, and things just start falling into place. Like there was a post where new guy had shared something called like Trump photo color. A trick basically in the secret section of the Magic Cafe, and it says copyright new guy 1985. 4 years later, the exact trick pops up on the Conjuring Archive, copyright to Michael Weber, and it's just a plethora. Anyway, this is going on. People are now just like losing their mind over this, and suddenly, and we're sort of skipping ahead a bit, an update gets made to a website.
This is going very quickly. While this is going on, behind the scenes, Weber's stopped communicating with Murphys completely at this point. He's no longer sending emails to me or Murphys or anybody. But I know that Trono, having spoken to people, Trono is still at this point going out of his way to say that I'm making a huge mistake. And Penguin, just so you know, just to be completely crystal clear about this whole thing, Penguin asked Michael to apologize. So when the video, Penguin asked Tim to apologize because he works for Penguin, and Tim sends an email to me. Tim sends an email to me and says, "Hey." Bearing in mind how the emails have been up until this point, once the video's gone out, he sends me an email, one sentence going, "Hey, Craig, hope you're well. Hope your family's well. It'd be great to chat. I'm in California. This is my number." And it's kind of like, well, that would have been a nice thing to actually receive at the beginning of this whole thing. Then this might have not been a whole situation. So I ignored it because, frankly, at this point, I don't trust Tim Trono as far as I can throw him. So I don't trust him. And I tell Murphys to contact Tim Trono and tell him I don't want to speak to him at all. And everything can be done over email where I've got an email chain. And he then... I hear from Penguin that they've told Tim to apologize to me. And then I get an email going... Oh, it's the most half-hearted apology ever. Going, oh, I hope you don't feel like you're attacked. Sorry if that's the case. Whilst at the same time going to people in Murphys and saying Craig's made a big mistake and he's going to be going down for this. Like the ego that these two have is just ridiculous at this point. Even at this point, with all of this going on, they're still like thinking that everything's fine.
Yeah, and it's bizarre. As this is sort of unfolding, then another thing happens, which is just another element to this craziness, is that the Conjuring Archive, which is basically like the database, or, it's not complete. Everyone knows it's not complete because it's almost an impossible task, but out of the blue, the Conjuring Archive then gets updated to show that age receipts trick is on there.
Yeah.
Which it could be complete coincidence, but if somebody was to research the situation, they would look back and they would find that the age receipts were there for all to find, and it would make it feel like potentially you just hadn't done your due diligence. But then again, the Magic Cafe internet sleuths come to the rescue and point out that it was only added on that day to sort of timestamp that no, you couldn't have found out about those. Beforehand. But just another crazy thing, and whether that's conspiracy or whether, there was collusion. It's just another crazy thing that happened that either it's, again, coincidence or it just happened. More things go on. But then, I'm not sure if I'm jumping on, but then basically there's a post from, Am I jumping too far ahead? Or
Yeah, there's so much going on at this point. Like, I was just like, there's so much going on. I was up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning every morning speaking to Murphys, going back and forth, like incredibly long Skype calls. It was insane. Like, we didn't know where we were at this point. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. But the key thing is, more and more negativity is coming out about Michael Webber. A lot of people, when he was outed as New Guy, a lot of people were going back through New Guy's posts and looking at stuff in a different light. There were so many people that were posting going, I bought this trick based on the testimonial that New Guy gave, and I didn't like it, and I thought it was because of me, but it's actually Webber shilling his own stuff through a fake persona. And when you actually think about this for a second, and seriously, forget about Michael Webber, forget about me, forget about everything. Forget about everything he's done, because his contributions to this art are vast and wide. Forget about all of that. Here is a person that for the last 20 years has used a fake persona to argue with people, bolster his own brand and his own image, shill products, and defend himself against anything. You go back and you look at the posts and you see them in a completely different light. The amount of times that New Guy has said that, oh, Michael Webber is a genius. Oh, I've got all of his material. Or the amount of time Webber's, I've seen so many posts where one I was looking at just earlier, Geraint Clark from released a download through Illusionist, and the New Guy started with everything was fine, everything was good. Like, it was like, hey, here's my new release, and everyone was like, oh, looks great, looks great, looks great. New Guy jumped in and said, hey, this is Webber's, blah 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 blah. And then the tide turned, and you could see that tide turning, and he was posting over and over again. And just using this New Guy persona, he was able to turn things round. And it's like, how many times has this guy done that? What sort of person do you have to be? Forget about the fact that he's a legend. What type of person do you have to be to fuck with people like that? It's despicable. If he... Take that Geraint Clark situation. If he genuinely believed that Geraint was in the wrong at that point, then man the hell up and go on and say, I'm Michael Webber and I disagree because. You may hate me, you may like me, but I've never hid behind a fake persona. If you're getting my point of view, it's because it's my point of view. I just think that's the lowest of the low, these fake personas. It's just ridiculous. It really, and like I say, he was using it to try and discredit me. Go back and read that first post that New Guy made at the cafe.
Yeah, when you reread that post in after the fact of what the revelation that comes out in a moment is, and like Pig Cake says in the comments, is that what makes it worse is the worst part is how obvious the posting was. Over 21 years, making 400 posts over that span of time isn't probably a lot, and it's not a lot to think that you would leave in any form of a pattern or being obvious. But when you just look at it, it may as well have just changed the name, you know. And it's like, and then
Pig Cake's a perfect example. He, as far as I'm concerned, no offense to Lloyd, he's my favorite YouTuber. I love the guy to bit.
No offense to me.
No, because I love Pig Cake to bits. He calls it like he sees it. He's straight as an arrow. I think he's amazing, and he's a guy that's like not afraid to be controversial. And you know what? He is who he is. Everybody knows who Pig Cake is. Have the balls to actually say who you are. And part of the issue was everyone was saying.
The irony is that Pig Cake was anonymous for a while and then revealed himself. He came out and just admitted it.
Oh, right. I didn't realise that.
Yeah. He's crazy.
Everybody knows who he is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing about this that was kind of really weird is that, like, he just radio silence. He wasn't communicating. As soon as everyone was like, hey, New Guy's Webber, New Guy disappeared and then came back and made a post a few days later. And it's this post that just really. Well,
I think it got to the point of no return. It's evidence. The evidence is irrefutable. but then people were starting to. What happened was, I think is that people started to get crazy with it, which is, so New Guy used the term guy in his username. Then on Penguin there was a 1-star super negative review on EDC, which is not even released yet, from somebody called Deception Guy. This was before it was outed as being Weber.
Then half an hour of being released, there was a Deception Guy.
Before the New Guy persona was outed, it was Deception Guy who left a scathing review, written in the same style. And then people went on to Vanishing Ink and found a review on the Lifesavers book written that said, give me a second because I think it is like relevant. But the review said, this book changed the way I thought about magic. Michael Weber is one of the best thinkers I have ever had the pleasure to read, but what sets him above is how his theory translates to his performances. The man is a genius. There's not one bad effect in this book. Not one, blah, 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 blah. It's an old review that's been on there. And the person who posted it used the username Guy. So people start posting all this stuff. The internet is like, you can't deceive the internet. And people then also start bringing up Tim Trono's past life, which, hey.
I got to say, on that subject, do you want to see a friend sent me a meme about that?
Go on.
Interview.
Oh, God.
I can't say who the friend is because...
I don't want to see a meme, really, because I don't want...
You don't want to see it? Okay, I won't tell you.
Well, I really want to be careful that no one gets, like, bullied or anything over this, because this is real stuff, and as much...
Okay.
I have made mistakes in the past, and it's all well and good being ribbed over it, but I think... I don't know.
Okay.
But then, because what I'm getting to now is, like, not only was it coming out about Weber, and then... even things that potentially may not have really been him with a secret persona were being attributed to him, whether it is or not. But then people started talking about Tim Trono's past life and things that he's done wrong, which is outside of magic. And yeah, it's not good, but it's outside of magic. It's not relevant to this this controversy. Nope. And I think things are just getting at this point to the point of like absolute chaos. So then a post appears
from New Guy
that says,
and it's very simply, it says, "Congratulations, Craig, you win. Best wishes." Congratulations, Craig, you win. Best wishes. Now, I'll tell you what I think about that, because that really annoyed the hell out of me. And the reason it annoyed me is because this isn't a fucking game. I really hope Michael Weber's listening to this, because if he is, I want him to understand that this is not a game. This is not a game that you win or you lose. I wasn't looking at this as a game. I was looking at this as every single night, staying up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, doing videos, speaking to people, going back and forth, trying to basically save my reputation and try to do whatever I can do to make sure that people realize that I'm not the bad guy, that I'm being painted. That's why I created the first video. And to say you win, it's not a game. It's not a game. It's not a game that you can win or lose. That attitude is just despicable. It wasn't an admission of guilt. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't anything other than a post designed to let me know he's backing down, I suppose, which he could have done privately over email. I don't know. I mean, the arrogance of this. I mean, if he'd have sent me an email like he had been doing up until the point that the video went up, going, hey, this has gone completely out of hand. This is absolutely ridiculous. Can we jump on the phone and let's discuss this? We could have maybe come to some sort of arrangement.
Or very quickly, he would have seen that this is worlds apart and understood that you couldn't have stolen it, and it would have been a complete non-issue.
Yeah, we're not even discussing the point of EDC being completely different to his trick. His trick, very quickly to sum this up in 30 seconds, his trick was published in a secret club that you can't get hold of. And the only way you could find it outside of that was by subscribing to Genie and then writing in to get some additional instructions. This is a 9 hour, no, not 9, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, many hours.
Approximately 7 hours now, but it's being advertised as 6.
6 or 7 hours of tutorial, with people like Pete Turner, Michael Murray, Simon Lipkin, Lloyd Barnes, Javier Major, screwed his name up. I always do.
I love that you just cannot.
Name to say. Javier. We'll just call him Javier from now on. The point is, all of these names contributing some of the best stuff that I've ever seen. It is completely different in so many ways. But he never asked to see a tutorial. He never asked to see anything. He never asked to be shown anything. It was just a case of, I've seen a tutorial, I've seen a trailer. Based off the trailer, I want you to pull this, else we're going to have another red situation on our hands and it's not going to be good for you. He never asked to see any proof or anything. It was just, he snapped his fingers. Craig, you be a good little boy and lie down. That's what we want you to do. And then to turn around at the end and say, you win. That's the most egotistical, arrogant, ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. I win? I didn't win.
Everybody loses in this situation. But I think we do have to look at the positives, and I think that's what brings us sort of to the end discussion. It's like, see, I know there's going to be repercussions for me and my reputation and my career from even just having this live video, because the way the hierarchy works behind the scenes of Magic, and I've been involved in it nowhere near as long as they have, and especially collectively, but I've been around long enough to know that you fall out with the wrong person and doors get shut that can never be reopened, period. So I know just by doing this, and I'm not even judging those guys' characters for what they've done. We're just literally laying out the timeline of events of what's going on. Even I know, by doing this, it's going to have bad effects for me. It's as simple as that, but I think it's an important topic to cover because I think you've got to find the positive in it. You've got to leave Magic better than you found it. You've got to ask yourself what you can do for Magic and do it. In fact, Weber even says that on a tweet that he made. And in this situation, I think people need to really think about how they approach these topics of idea policing. At what point do you take such a Gestapo approach to ideas that you would be willing to attempt to put someone in a position that would give them a mental breakdown or get death threats? I wouldn't say that as a normal thing, but it's the fact that it was the term red with your history. That's what it was implying over an idea that was shared secretly 12 years ago that was very, very different. At what point do you get so protective over ideas that you don't want them, that you think that somebody can't take it, not even take it, you think that somebody independently, provably independently, can create the same thing and take it to plethoras that are unmatched with some literally like Mark Lemon, Peter Turner, Michael Murray. These are the best mentalists on the planet as far as I'm concerned. Weighing in with their ideas, and at what point do you get so? It's like Anish Kapoor, right, buying the rights to Vanta Black. A new color essentially was developed for art and artists around the world, and he bought the rights to it to stop other people using it. And it's like, I don't think that makes Magic better. I don't think that's how you leave this place better. If we applied that thinking and that style approach to Magic, and we had done since the start, I don't think we'd have Magic as we know it now. We wouldn't. If people were chased out and terrorized for having the same ideas, expanding upon those ideas, then where would we be? And I think, even though I know this means that I'll probably lose friends over this, or I respect the work of those two guys monumentally. But it means that they'll probably never speak to me again over this just by being involved in this situation. But it's so important to address.
It really is. I mean, it really is. And yeah, I really don't know. I'm drained about the whole thing. I'm really, really drained. I can't think straight a lot of the time actually at the moment. But I mean, I think we just need to move on. I'd like to see. Here's the thing, like you say, I used this term in my first video. I said that there's a magic mafia, and there is a magic mafia. There's a magic mafia out there. It's not who you think it is. But there is a group, a collective of people that control this industry, and they use despicable tactics to squash people that they feel shouldn't be in the position that they're in, and continue to hold power, relevance, and I know this, and you might want to call me a conspiracy theorist, but that's fine. But I've spoken to so many people. We all know, there's so many people. I've had literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 50 or 60 people reach out to me and say, this is an experience I've had with this person. This is an experience I've had with this person. And you know what? The bottom line is, I was never meant to succeed in this industry. I'm not the best looking guy in the world. I'm clumsy. I permanently have a stubble. I only ever wear checkered shirts. Like, I'm just not the company guy. I'm not the guy that you would promote as like the brand leader or whatever it may be. And yeah, I think the message out here is anybody can be whatever they want to be in this industry. And the most important thing is, don't let people squash you. Don't let people put you down. Just because you get an email from somebody, doesn't matter who the email is, reach out for support, reach out for help, because there's new creators coming into this industry all the time. And don't let the people that have been here for years squash you and squash your ideas and your creativity. Don't do that. Help. Reach out to me for help if you want.
I was speaking to a good friend of mine, and I won't name. I know he's watching the stream. I won't name him just in case he doesn't want to be named. But he said it's such a crazy industry. Now, don't get me wrong. I know theft of ideas happens in magic, right? Some people just flat out steal ideas. We've seen it a million times. But he was talking to me about how, have you ever seen Mark Ronson, the music producer's TED Talk, and how he actively campaign. He thinks that, and he's right, that people that these music companies and families of dead musicians that go after new artists for sampling a track and then change it to make it their own, and they sue them for millions and millions of dollars. It's the worst thing ever, because it means that music is going to die, like unique or adaptation and creativity is being stifled for monetary gain. And I think it's the same in all industry, but you just don't see it like you do in magic. If we did this with technology, like, I understand patents for very, very unique things that make something have a USP. I get that. I'm not ignorant. But if we treated this the same way we did technology, we'd be in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And it's at what point do we just tell people, no, you can't make up that card routine, because I'm using like a superlative or whatever the word is. I don't even know the word. I'm using an extreme case. But if someone said, you can't put that routine out because it uses the double lift, and that was published in Discovery of Witchcraft or whatever it was in 1500, so but he's like, yeah, but dude, this is a whole routine. The double lift is the first thing. It's the 7-hour project of tricks that you can do. Yes, but that was there. It just could have been handled so much better for everyone. And someone compared it. It's like imagine someone wrote down on a napkin, I'm going to write a story. This is a story about a boy wizard who went to a wizard school and ended up fighting a bad wizard and winning. And then the Harry Potter saga comes out. And the person with the napkin says, hey, this is my 500-word story. You can't put out that saga. But it's like, well, I didn't even know it existed. You give that napkin to a couple of your friends. Well, it's still there. And, and I feel like I'm simplifying it, but it is there. It is the situation that happened.
Yeah, it really is. And what I want, and I put a video about this later on today. I've already put a video up about this. Sorry, I want. There's a witch hunt going on the Magic Cafe at the moment, and I think it needs to stop. I don't want Michael Webber to be put through the same ordeal that I was put through 11 years ago, ironically by him. I don't want to do that. I don't want that to happen. He is probably feeling a bit crap. Well, I mean, he might not be. I don't know him, but he's probably not feeling the best. And what he doesn't need is to be attacked on the Magic Cafe constantly. He doesn't need that. Nobody needs that. I bring you back to the fact that for the last 20 years, he's been posting under a fake name, talking about how he is brilliant. That type of person maybe isn't as mentally stable as we thought he is. That type of person, maybe, he needs to go and look for speaking to somebody or chat to somebody, because, if I was Michael, I'd just take a step back like I did and do some soul searching and honestly look in the mirror and just say to himself, what you have been doing over the last 20 years, is this the right thing to do? That's what I do. That's what I did.
But also, I don't want it to be like too harsh. And it took a lot, even though it wasn't the right things to say probably, but it must have took a lot of gumption to post like, Craig Petty, you win, even though it wasn't the best way of saying it or phrasing it after everything that's happened. Especially, it's a tough pill to swallow to come out and say, yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes, Lloyd. I've made 1,000 mistakes in my life, and you know what, buddy? I'm going to carry on making mistakes. I will make mistakes. I made a mistake just a couple of weeks ago with a thing that I did on my YouTube channel. When you put as much content out as me, you make mistakes all the time. I have made tons of mistakes. It's not a problem failing, it's how you fail. It's about failing forwards. If you learn from your mistakes and you don't do it exactly the same way, then it's not too much of an issue.
Yeah.
He's getting distracted again. Look at him on his phone.
My friend said, you butchered the Mark Robinson point. Thank you for not naming me. I totally realised as I was talking, I'd missed the point completely, but I was too far down the rabbit hole. He says, my point was that other industries like the music industry collectively fight for the right to remix and build on each other's ideas. There we go. And I messed that up completely. But
it happens, don't worry. You're thick. It's good.
I am. I'm an idiot. So yeah, it's been crazy. I always get this horrible feeling in my guts. I remember years ago I went through. I ended up putting out. I did the same thing. I put out a 45-minute video, just facts, things that had happened, and then setting the record straight and letting people make their own minds up. And even though it was the best thing I ever did, it actually potentially, I say the word saved my career, because if I had done what I was being accused of, it could have gone so bad. But that feeling in your stomach of who's gonna be looking for me now, or looking over your shoulder, it never fully goes away. But I think it's important to take a stand against it, and for every one of you or me that took a stand and made a video like this in our tiny little community. There's 100 people that didn't or weren't able to and didn't have the platform to do it, that have suffered at the wrath of people who've done the same sort of thing, and I just think it's got to stop. So yeah, fight the good fight, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot going on in magic. It's a wonderful industry. It's a wonderful hobby. It's a wonderful place to be a part of. I love magic. I love magic more than anything else in the world. It's probably the only thing I'm really good at. But it doesn't mean that it's not flawed. It is. It's flawed in many, many ways. And it would be good if there was a light shined on those aspects of the industry that are not as positive as others. And I think that there's a lot going on, and I think it's all going to come out in the wash in the coming weeks and months. But that's for another video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On that note, I can see we have so many people watching live. Hello, 130. At one point, there was 160 people all live on here. Drop us a like so we know you're still watching. I mean, this has been an eye-opening experience for so many reasons. Pig Cake says, I can't wait for the video that Craig teased. Yeah, that video, I know a lot about that. That is just very, very wild about what's going to go on there.
My room literally looks like, I'm sitting in it. If you looked at that wall over there, it looks like the scene from Prison Break.
I have a question for you. Blackpool is in a week's time-ish, 2 weeks' time-ish.
Yeah.
What would you say if you bumped into one of those two guys?
I've had that conversation.
Yeah.
With Sean Dunn. I'm an open book. I've had the conversation with Sean Dunn. I spoke to Sean today because I'm booked to work on the Penguin Magic Live stand. And Tim's a Penguin, and he will be there in the capacity of working at Penguin. He won't be on the stand, but he'll be there. And Tim was like, is it going to be difficult? And sorry, not Tim. Sean was like, is it going to be difficult? I'm like, no, dude. Look, I've been running businesses for over a decade now. I have had so many awkward situations, and I've sat in the room with so many people that I hate, literally across a board table.
Dude, we have worked together.
Exactly. I can be very, very professional. Like I say, the character that you see on YouTube is a character. But when I'm doing anything to do with business, it's all business. If I'm booked to be on a trade stand, look, if I was in the same room as Tim Trono and Michael Weber, I wouldn't have a problem. If I was sitting at the table having a meal with Michael Weber and Tim Trono, and other people, I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have an issue being at the same convention with Michael Weber and Tim Trono. But I will go, and I will say on the record that after this, I don't trust Tim and Michael as far as I can throw them. And I would not ever want to have a conversation in private if other people weren't there. I wouldn't want to have a conversation over the phone unless I told them beforehand it was recorded. I wouldn't want to have anything that wasn't on the record, because if there's one thing I've learned is that they have the capacity to lie and manipulate events to serve their own agenda. And I don't want to be caught with my pants around my ankles again. So I am absolutely fine with them. I've got no problem with them. I'm, not going to go and run after Michael and try and get my copy of Lifesavers autographed anytime soon. But I don't hate them. I don't hate anybody. Hate's a strong word. I don't hate anyone. Maybe Lloyd, but that's it. He's the only person I do hate.
Me?
Yeah. You
Out of
me.
all this, I knew it. I knew just by posting a live video that I would be the one that gets hated on the most.
It's the way it is, man.
Tigger T has done a wicked. Tigger T, drop some fire emojis in that chat window for Tigger T, who's put a super chat in. Tell us about the carrot. I cannot tell you about the carrot. Literally not on a live stream, because I would get this YouTube video.
So I will tell you something. Obviously, me and Lloyd do a Magic podcast live every year at Blackpool. Now, the Magic podcast, if you've ever heard it, is very different to what we've just done on Lloyd's channel. And it's very different to what I do on my channel. The Magic podcast live...
18 and over only.
Yeah, the Magic podcast live, we do at Blackpool on the Friday night in the bar. I normally have about 25 pints before I do it, just to get the guts up to do it. And it never gets recorded. What happens in the podcast stays in the podcast. And this year's Magic Podcast Live at Blackpool is going to be very interesting. That's all I'm saying. Because you stick.
Oh, don't say that. What's that mean now? I don't want any more drama.
Neither do I. But if I'm sitting on that stage with you, 20 pints in, and somebody asks my opinion, I can't guarantee. I can't even remember the last podcast, Lloyd. I'm fairly sure I led a song about Derek Lever.
Yeah, don't use that. Like, this video will get deleted off YouTube if you repeat what that was all about.
All I'm saying is I don't know what's going to happen at the podcast live, because I will be drunk. It's the only way I can actually do that podcast live. I will be very, very drunk. So
on the off the back of that, people are accusing you of using this as a marketing technique, which I think we're an hour and a half into the live stream. I think you can all understand that this was not a marketing ploy, but I'm about to use this platform right now. I'm open. I was going to make a YouTube video over the weekend just to announce the big news that I've personally got, which I'm going to piggyback off Craig. But it's basically I've said yes to my first ever lecture. I've always said no. I'm very like selective about this sort of stuff. But it's Blackpool. I'm lecturing at Blackpool. I won't talk any more about it. But I am open in Blackpool on the arena stage at 10 a.m. on Fridays. So if you want to come and hang out after the lecture or before the lecture, let's do it. Okay.
In wrestling, they call that the curtain jerker. And it's normally the most important spot on the card, because it's what sets the tone for the rest of the card. So
it's going to be a very bad.
I know from having spoken to the people at Blackpool, you're on to start with, because they want to set the tone for the rest of the convention. They want something good. That's why you're there.
Is chubby a tone?
You're gonna absolutely kill it, man. You're gonna absolutely kill it. But yeah, for people that think that I use this whole thing as a marketing platform for my, if I'd have gone to you, Lloyd, okay, because you're my handler, everybody knows.
Oh, whoa! I am not your handler. If anything, you know when the horse is bucking and it's like, I'm like, come on, big fella, sun's getting real low. Big fella. It's like the Incredible Sulk.
If I turned around to you, honestly, and said, Lloyd, I've got a great idea to sell ED seats. Here's an idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to somehow get Michael Webber to be annoyed about it. And then I'm going to go back and forth with him, piss him off even more. Then I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to drag Tim Trono into it. And then we're going to get the whole Magic Cafe to turn. Like, you just tell me I'm an idiot. Like, this is not a marketing strategy. It's really not.
That's what I would say if I'd set this strategy up, though.
This is very true.
Jay Blunt has done a super chat, by the way. Thank you so much, Jay. Fire emojis down below. You know what to do, guys. Go on, carry on. No, we both can't get distracted at the same time. That's not how this works.
Hey, I've had a text off my wife and she said the magic words. Dinner's soon. But no, yeah, this is not a marketing strategy. No, I am pretty good at marketing. That is very true. And I've got a background in marketing, and I used to run my own marketing company, and I've got multiple qualifications in marketing. But those multiple qualifications and that experience in marketing would tell me that using this as a marketing strategy or creating this as a marketing strategy is the most batshit idea ever.
It's the biggest gamble. Like, yes, you could have. Anyone could design any controversy. First of all, it would have meant that you would have had to start it, and you didn't start this. But the risk is that, oh look, you sell a trick which is, by all intents and purposes, a niche trick. It's a mentalism piece from Craig Petty, so not many people do mentalism. Your fan base is not really fans of mentalism. It's not a high price thing, so there's not a big profit in it. And then to start the controversy over a trick like that, and if it doesn't go in your favour, you would lose your reputation or be shut up the industry. The gamble don't exist. The gamble don't pay off in this situation.
No. Look for the controversy when I release Quantum Deck 2, because that will be completely engineered, I promise you.
You know that when there's going to be... this Craig, what have you done? Right. Let me say this as an employee of Murphy's. If there is controversy around the Quantum Deck 2 and Craig has generated it, I'm going to out you as generating it, because you're probably going to get controversy over it. Someone somewhere is going to have some ownership over it. And now you've also told people that Quantum Deck 2 is coming out, so good job on that.
Sorry.
And but if you didn't start the controversy, you're not going to escape it. So, and this could sound okay, I do feel like you're handler now. I this is not.
I'll be quiet. Not saying a word. I'll be good.
Also, this is a non-thing. It was me that came up with the name ED Seat, wasn't it? Or was it?
Yeah, it was you, because I remember, because we were filming it at Smoke and Mirrors, and we got to the point, we'd done the live performances, and we got to the point where we were doing the tutorial, and I was like, you were like, what's it called? And I'm like, I've been calling it the receipt trick. And you're like, okay, give me 5 minutes. And then,
and then I said, I'm sure that's something I read in Genie.
No, you didn't.
It was a different effect and a different method, but
Nemid was with us, if you remember, and you said, "Oh my God, I've got a great idea," and you said ED seat, and Nemid said, well, that's it. You know, he's going to have an even bigger ego now, because that's the best name for a trick I've ever heard in my life. And it was. I was like, fuck me, Lloyd. That's brilliant. That just sums it up perfectly.
I'm going to toot my own horn. I'm going to do it proudly. I was so proud because it was EDC, which is it's an everyday carry. It combines EDC with receipt, but there's another word that most people are missing. It's deceit, which is part of that magic. Deceit, deception. So it's EDC, receipt, plus deceit. So E, deceit. And I was like, the proudest of everything. my god! The internet never forgets. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take that back. You came up with the name, didn't you?
No, it was all you.
And it was just you taking a run at spelling receipts.
Yeah.
You didn't went for it. Swing and a miss.
That's what it is, yeah.
No, but thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm not going to leave you. Do you know what? I'm so surprised that this is under 2 hours. I bet if people were to take bets beforehand, they would not have bet this would be under 2 hours. But I don't really think we need to ramble on. I hope everyone isn't harsh on the people involved in the story, on the good sides, the bad sides. It's not about a lynch mob. That's happened in the past. That had massive ramifications. It does have ramifications. I think it's just about, what's happened is pretty embarrassing. You know, for everyone, it's embarrassing to even have that. Like, even I'm involved in this somehow. Like, it's embarrassing for you. It's embarrassing for everyone.
Yeah.
Learn from it. Think about what you can do for Magic and do it. Like, leave it in a better place. Anything you want to say, man, to round this out?
Thanks very much for everybody that supported me. Thank you very much for everybody that's left really nice comments. I have read every single one of them. I might not have been able to reply to every single one of them. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you know, I'll continue to do the best I can. And on a side note, if anybody has any editions of Real Secrets that they want to sell me, I'm looking for some new material to publish soon, and I'd love you to well, just give me a call, basically, is what I'm saying.
You can just find it on the Conjuring Archive now. So
that's fine.
It's been there for days, my friend. Been there for days. Craziest timeline ever. Thank you all for enjoying the show, if you even enjoyed it. Thank you all for the chat revenue. This is crazy. We will be donating it to a charity of Craig's choice. So we've got £50 in chat revenue that's came in from today's show. You spoke about this earlier. What we were feeling, either a mental health charity or some form of anti-bullying charity. I think it's the only right thing to do with the chat revenue. And I didn't want to say it earlier in the video because I didn't want people to think that this was, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think definitely an anti-bullying or an anti or a mental health charity, I think, would absolutely be the best place.
Okay, so, yeah. All right, guys, I will see you all on Tuesday for another Tutorial Tuesday. Come back to see what I'm going to create for the episode. Craig, everyone will see you every single minute of every single second of every single day on YouTube.
I got a great video going up at 9 o'clock tonight. I'm doing a review show special on Vanishing Ink's new book by Ben Harris, all on the Svengali deck. And there's an interview in there with Ben Harris as well.
He's an absolute genius. And also, Edie's Seat officially launches on the 10th of February, is it?
Yeah, it's up for pre-order now. It's going pretty well. So
yeah, so how's that for marketing?
Pretty well. Controversy creates cash, apparently. So.
All right, love you all. We'll see you all very soon. And Craig, what happens now is that I press end stream, but it takes about a minute for the stream to end. So the last time I did this, I sneezed all over myself and didn't realize I had snot everywhere and I was still live. So let's end the stream and then I'll tell you when you can talk. Don't talk until I tell you.
I love the fact that he feels the need to tell me not to say something stupid while he's still finishing off the stream.
Yeah, normally that doesn't have an impact either.
Oh, that's funny.
What have you got for dinner?
I don't know. Lamb.
I just heard Rylan say, no, you haven't.
Chicken, I think. Although it was soon, so I'm going to have to come up in a second. I just need to show you something when this stream has officially ended.
Okay, I'm just watching because it's so delayed. I think it's around there. Hold on. I'm still live, so let's end the stream. And then I'll tell you when you can talk. Don't talk until I tell you.